Mrs. Frog looking for a handsome prince. It's Christmas card time for our missionaries to let them know that we love them. Of course, it's going on December, and so it's like ASAP, but most of you already know the drill. You can prepare Christmas cards for any or all of our missionaries, and here's how you do it. Number one, pick up a list of missionaries from me or the Connection Center, and decide which from that list that you would like to send cards to. Number two, write a short note on the card telling a little about yourself or thanking them for what they do. And when you sign a card, be sure to say that you're from West Congregational Church, Haverhill, Mass. Number three, along with your return address, put just the missionary's name on the envelope, and then return the cards to the Christmas card basket that will be on the Connection Center. The missions team will stamp, address, and mail the cards for you. That's it. 3 easy steps. You can do that. And remember, the basket will be here next week, starting next week, but there's no such thing as too late. You bring the cards, we'll mail them whenever. And now, my handsome prince is...
I finally got that, Ellie. I'll blow you a kiss, but I don't want to... Good morning.
Good morning.
I asked a couple of my friends on the screen to bring you Thanksgiving greetings. We're going to back up from Christmas for a minute, if you can make those out. This Thursday is Thanksgiving, hard to believe. And we're thankful, again this year, for your generous giving. West Church is blessed by a number of really faithful givers, and our God has also been gracious to us. As is typical of the financial updates, there's good news and bad news. So first, the good news. So far this year, you've given $590,000 towards our operating and missions budgets to the support of those things in our congregation. Then in addition to those gifts, you've made contributions to 3 short-term mission trips in the amount of $82,000, and you've given another $23,000 to the benevolence fund for folks who are needy in our congregation. So you are givers. That's the bad news. I mean, that's the good news.
That's so funny.
Thanks. The bad news is that compared to this same period last year, the giving is down $48,000.
Oh no.
Yeah. Notice the red ink. Those of you who never knew what it meant to be in the red, this is what we want. We want numbers to be in the black. When they're in the red, that's not a good sign.
Of course not.
Did you know that every dollar that supports things, all the stuff that goes on at West Church, all the ministry, the facility, the staff, all the programs and activities that you may be involved in, is supported by you? We don't have any outside endowments. We don't receive any government funds. We don't have any other sources of money coming in except you. We don't sell stuff. It's just you. So some people may not be aware of that, but every dollar for all of these things and all of the support of the missionaries that we support around the world comes through your faithful giving. To further clarify, at this point, our budget for the year that was approved in January is $786,000. So if you do the math, it means we need to come up with about $196,000 over the next 6 weeks to reach that. That's a stretch, even for us. And so we've taken some steps to try to reduce expenses and bring this more in line. But it's going to be a stretch. But the good news is, along with this, the sky is not falling.
Of course not.
Yeah. God is still in control of our future, and He's especially in control of His church. And He's going to provide what needs to be done, but He's going to use us to help do that. So my role is to come today and present the need to you, and now you have an opportunity to respond over the next 6 weeks. So how should you respond? Well, Paul gave some instructions to the Philippian church when he was dealing with some fairly stressful and difficult situations. When he wrote this book, as Dale mentioned a week or two ago, he was sitting in prison when he wrote the letter to the Philippians. And he was waiting for the verdict on the trial that he had been through. So he was under a bit of stress and a little difficulty himself at that point. So it's interesting from that perspective to see what he said. First of all, he said, don't worry about anything. Secondly, he said, instead pray about everything. Thirdly, tell God what you need. Now, God knows what we need, but for some reason He wants us to talk to Him. He wants a relationship with us, and He wants us to communicate with Him. So He's asked us to tell Him about our needs. And lastly, He says, thank Him for all He's done. Because in thanking Him, it puts in perspective all the good things that He's done for us. It isn't all bad news. In the worst of circumstances, there's good things going on. Many of you I know are suffering financially at this time. You're in either lost jobs or have been cut back. You may be having bills come up that you don't have any way to pay. You just may not have a way to try to give anything more financially at this point. But as Paul made clear, you do have a role to play. I'd like to close with a brief story. About 7 or 8 years ago,
McDonald's.
My grandson Joshua and I went to one of our favorite dining establishments for lunch. He was about 5 years old at the time, and we're eating, and I hadn't purchased any of my own French fries, so I asked him if I could have a few of his French fries. He said, no, they're mine. He was correct, they were his, but I had just bought them for him. I gave him the French fries. Being the exceptional child that he is, after a few seconds he said, oh yeah, sure, and he gave me some French fries. But the interesting thing was that it turned out he couldn't even eat them all anyway.
That's a super huge portion.
And that reminds me of how often in my relationship with God, I've hoarded my French fries, my stuff. He's provided everything that I have, all of it. It all comes due to His grace. But the Lord asks me and you to give back some of that, a small part of that, of what He's generously provided. But how often has my response been, no, I need it, it's mine. I may not have said it in so many words, but many times by my inaction, I've demonstrated a no. In Matthew, Jesus said, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. God doesn't need my money. He has resources beyond our comprehension, but He wants my heart. He knows that when I give to Him, my heart will follow. I need to give in order to develop the relationship of trust with Him, because that's how I begin to trust Him for all my needs. How many times I've grasped and hoarded my French fries only to discover that I had more than I needed. The reality is that our response to God is always a spiritual decision way before it's a financial decision. So the question is, will you respond with open hands or by grasping? Will you respond with an open heart, trusting God with your hands wide open in thankfulness to Him? Have a great Thanksgiving Day.